Stand by then for the sequel to an epic, as Liverpool, for whom 97 points were extraordinarily not quite enough, dare to crave for just a little bit more.
Friday night, fresh and raring to go. The video assistant referee in place, a Premier League first, and Liverpool ready to get the ball rolling. The European champions gave newly promoted Norwich City the harshest reintroduction to the top tier, with a 4-1 victory that underlined the Reds' intent. Having missed out on the title by a single point the previous season, Jurgen Klopp's men were determined that this time the prize would be theirs. The message received by Manchester City, who made their own statement away at West Ham. The champions completed an unprecedented domestic treble in May and had their sights set on a third consecutive Premier League crown. Raheem Sterling scored a hat-trick in a 5-0 victory that suggested, just like the previous campaign, they'd be jockeying for position with the Reds week in, week out. Old Trafford staged the headline game of the opening weekend as Chelsea legend Frank Lampard took a hastening start to Lampard's career as Chelsea's head coach. But United's resounding victory was a real boom for his counterpart Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
City's first visitors of a new campaign are the very ones who denied them total domination in the last. De Bruyne, a delicious whip, Sterling's header, and Manchester City's lead. Dombele. Lamela, what a terrific goal. De Bruyne, Aguero, brilliantly sharp, incision at its most piercing. Lamela's delivery, and there is their second equaliser, and it is Lucas Moura in a flash. What an impact!
City thought they'd won the game in stoppage time, only for Gabriel Jesus' goal to be ruled out for a handball in the build-up.
VAR, a spanner in the works of the champions. That has struck an arm of Laporte, and the goal has been ruled out. The champions drop points.
Tottenham suffered a surprise 1-0 defeat at home to Newcastle. The Magpies record signing Joe Linton off the mark for his new club, giving Steve Bruce his first points on the board. A colossal clash at Anfield on week 3. Liverpool and Arsenal have both won their opening 2 league matches, but the Gunners offered little defence against the Reds' firepower. While it was Joel Matip who opened the scoring, 2 goals made Mohamed Salah the star in a 3-1 victory. Jurgen Klopp praised his team's energy, greed and passion. The following week, Manchester City dismantled Brighton and Hove Albion at the Etihad. A 4-0 success meant City had rattled in 14 goals in the opening month. This match, though, had long-term repercussions, with key centre-back Aymeric Laporte ruled out until January by a knee injury. A 1-1 draw at Newcastle was the final act in a short-lived season for Watford's Javi Gracia. The Spaniard, who led the club to the FA Cup final in May, was sacked after 20 months at the helm. His departure paved the way for the Hornets to quickly reappoint their former head coach, Quique Sanchez-Flores. Liverpool finished August with an unblemished record, 2 points clear of champions Manchester City. Leicester, Crystal Palace and West Ham were quick off the blocks, ahead of Arsenal, Manchester United, Chelsea and Tottenham. With just 1 point from a possible 12, Watford were joined in the relegation zone by newly promoted Norwich and Aston Villa. Wolves appeared to be feeling the early effects of their Europa League campaign.
By the time Manchester City travelled to Norwich, they were 5 points behind Liverpool. Injuries to 8 players severely restricted the Canaries' selection options, but Pep Guardiola had a problem of his own. The long-term absence of City's injured defensive linchpin, Aymeric Laporte.
Goal in danger and a goal! Magnificently done by Norwich City, who take the lead with Kenny McLean. It's Temu Pukki, beautifully done, Kemwell, and Norwich City are 2 up.
Just before the break, Sergio Aguero struck back, giving the champions renewed hope for the second half. Only for Daniel Farke's men to once again take full advantage of their opponent's frail defence.
Oh, and there's a mistake by Otamendi. Wendy is in. Pukki surely this time does score. 3-1 to Norwich City. That was a calamity in the Manchester City defence.
Summer signing Rodri scored his first Manchester City goal in the closing minutes, but that barely merited a celebration. A stunning 3-2 victory for the underdog. Manchester United also suffered away at West Ham, losing 2-0. It meant that on their travels, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's side had gone 9 games in all competitions without a win. Come match week 6, Manchester City had the chance to steal a march on Liverpool. They played before their title rivals, aiming to reduce the gap at the top to 2 points by beating bottom club Watford. And City seized the initiative in astonishing style, 5 goals up after just 18 minutes. An utterly ruthless display thrilled the home fans at the Etihad as the match finished 8-0, just 1 goal shy of the Premier League's record victory.
You can never have too much of this one. The ever-twisting, never-failing plot, which is Chelsea-Liverpool. Salah for Alexander-Arnold. Oh, brilliant! Just glorious execution. It's a beautiful, beautiful Liverpool goal. Robertson plays it in. Firmino! And in a flash, Liverpool are 2 to the good.
N'Golo Kante's second-half strike kept Chelsea in contention right to the end. But Jurgen Klopp's side had too much for Frank Lampard's young lineup as Liverpool maintained their perfect start. Leicester fueled talk of a top-4 finish with a 5-0 demolition of 10-man Newcastle, a result the Magpies manager Steve Bruce described as a complete surrender. Liverpool ended September 5 points clear of Manchester City with 7 straight wins to start the season. Leicester and West Ham were among the early pace-setters, Manchester United down in 10th. Watford were feeling the effects of that 8-0 trouncing at Manchester City as they propped up Newcastle and Aston Villa. 3 consecutive defeats left Everton in 15th.
An appointment at the Amex in October for Tottenham, off the back of a torrid 7-day period that saw them knocked out of the EFL Cup by 4th-tier opponents and beaten 7-2 at home by Bayern Munich in the Champions League. Brighton and Hove Albion exploited their troubles. After Neil Maupay's early opener, the Seagulls never looked back, and teenager Aaron Connolly netted twice on his full Premier League debut in Albion's 3-0 win. Newcastle climbed out of the bottom 3 by beating Manchester United at St James's Park. 19-year-old Matty Longstaff secured the shock victory for his boyhood club. By now, Manchester City were falling behind in the race at the top. They hosted Wolverhampton Wanderers at the Etihad, where frustration was the theme for Pep Guardiola's side. Things got even worse for the title holders in the final 10 minutes as Wolves twice counter-attacked through Adama Traore to secure a 2-0 victory that was excellent news for leaders Liverpool. Sheffield United was shaping up as the season's surprise package. They beat Arsenal 1-0 to climb into the top half. Astonishing progress for a team that was playing in the 3rd tier of English football in 2017.
Just 8 games in, and the Liver Bird floats into Old Trafford, 15 points ahead of its host. Miloff at the back of Origi, no foul given, and James is going the other way. James towards Rashford! There's nothing Old Trafford loves more than that! Andrew Robertson, Firmino, Lallana! Liverpool embrace salvation at Old Trafford. And so, reluctantly, these 2 enemies must shake on it. Perfection has at last been lost.
Approaching a year on from the tragic death of former Leicester City owner Vishai Sriadhana Prapar, The Foxes paid tribute and went on to beat Burnley 2-1 at the King Power Stadium. 2 days before the anniversary of the helicopter crash that claimed the lives of 5 people, Leicester were in action again away at Southampton. A record-breaking night for Rodgers' rampant team, who racked up 9 goals without reply on the south coast. The biggest away win in top-flight history included a hat-trick apiece for Jamie Vardy and Ayoze Perez. Over in Liverpool, Tottenham had the chance to avenge their heartbreaking defeat the last time the two clubs met, which was the Champions League final in June. They delivered an immediate blow to the Reds' hopes of another dominant display.
Shot deflected against the post and in by Kane. 47 seconds. And Harry Kane scores for Spurs in front of the Kop. It came to Henderson. Captain's goal at a critical moment in front of the Kop. Aurier threw in a leg and Liverpool have a penalty. Salah with assurance and Liverpool with a lead. A game they had to chase, they've chased. Well, those are the games that champions win, would-be champions at least. From behind, Liverpool have snatched the lot again.
Liverpool finished October with a 6-point lead over second-place Manchester City. Leicester were still flying high in third, just above Chelsea and Arsenal. Sheffield United up in 8th. The only side yet to win were Watford, who remained at the foot of the table, with Norwich and Southampton also in the bottom 3. Everton sat just 2 points above the relegation zone, and Tottenham a disappointing 11th.
New month, new start for Bournemouth. Having gone the whole of October without scoring, they opened November by beating Manchester United 1-0 as Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's side continued to tread water. During match week 12, Watford finally managed their first win of the campaign in a significant clash at Carrow Road. Norwich's 2-0 defeat dropped them to the bottom of the pile.
The champions of Europe against the champions of our land. Truly, this is a gift of a game. Stones in retreat. Robertson shapes in towards Mo Salah! Liverpool off to a flyer! Mo Salah ran in from his wing. Henderson. Delicious cross, Mane! Liverpool are pulling away. This may be an irreversible lead on the day and through the campaign. There's Sterling, Angelino, Bernardo Silva. Hold on. He has speared City back almost to within touch. Who catches Liverpool now? 30 years on, right here, right now, it feels like Liverpool's to lose.
Surprise package Sheffield United was superb, but Tottenham, the home side grateful to VAR as the tightest of offside calls, denied David McGoldrick. And Daniel Levy decided only a change would do. He sacked Pochettino after 5 years in charge, and just 5 months after the iron. Less than 24 hours later, Jose Mourinho returned to English football, and the new head coach took charge for the first time at West Ham, overseeing a 3-2 Tottenham victory. Immediate success for the former Chelsea and Manchester United manager. On the other side of North London, Arsenal was suffering. Unai Emery's future remained the subject of much discussion, and the Gunners were heading for defeat at home to Southampton until Alexander Lacazette salvaged a draw in the 96th minute. An equaliser which delivered a stay of execution for Emery. However, a Europa League defeat against Eintracht Frankfurt 5 days later proved the final straw, and the Spaniards' 18-month tenure came to an end. The bottom two met at St Mary's, and Southampton notched up their first league win since September. The 2-1 defeat for Watford meant they'd taken just 8 points from 14 games, and Quique Sanchez-Flores, who'd been in charge for 10 of those, was dismissed the following day. The Hornets were 6 points from safety and looking for their third head coach of the season. Everton's struggles also continued, with Manchester United in the bottom half too. Frontrunners Liverpool held an 11-point advantage over Manchester City. Leicester and Chelsea completed the top four. Tottenham in fifth were on the rise under Jose Mourinho, thanks to back-to-back wins.
Two decades on from Everton's last victory at Anfield, the latest chapter in the long rivalry of these Merseyside neighbours was about to be written.
Origi's in, Origi scores again in the derby. It's his game. Sadio Mane, Shaqiri too. And Everton just don't know where to look.
Defender Michael Keane snatched a goal back for the Blues, giving Marco Silva's side a glimmer of hope, but that was soon extinguished.
What a touch, what a finish, what a magnificent goal from Divock Origi. It's Trent Alexander-Arnold, Sadio Mane. They are in Merseyside paradise.
A pulsating first half finished with the 6th goal of the game. Richarlison's header meant Silva still had something to build on after the break, but Liverpool remained in the mood for a demolition.
And speared by Wijnaldum, and the Reds have ripped up Derby Day. Where to next? It may be, indeed, for him, exit time.
The following day, Marco Silva was sacked by Everton after Jose Mourinho's return to Old Trafford ended with his first defeat as Tottenham boss. Marcus Rashford netted twice, supporting Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's insistence that United were making progress and preparing them nicely for a big weekend.
So tuck in, savour it all, raw and ritualistic as it is, and of course so very relevant way beyond the city walls of Manchester.
Midway through the first half in the Manchester derby, Rashford picked up where he left off. Bernardo Silva's challenge initially went unpunished, but VAR offered the option of a second look and advised Anthony Taylor to award a penalty.
Rashford rolls it in for the Reds. Martial, James. Martial scores! You could hear a pin drop. Morez plays it in and Otamendi notches it in, and there is life in the derby. The final whistle, Ole's wheel turns for the better. City, perhaps today, dethroned by United. Pep 14 points off the lead.
Former Leicester manager Nigel Pearson was appointed as Liverpool's opponents, and Jurgen Klopp celebrated signing a new contract with a hard-fought 2-0 victory. The following day, Mikel Arteta's future was the subplot to Manchester City's 3-0 win away at Arsenal, with rumours gathering momentum that Pep Guardiola's assistant would soon be back at the Emirates as a boss in his own right. 5 days later, the former Gunners captain was confirmed as their new head coach on a 3.5-year deal.
Premier League trophy sits proudly in the inner sanctum of City's home, still dressed in sky blue and white ribbons. But unless we see a team recover to win English football's most prized possession like never before, then that trophy will be heading down Mancunian Way and out of this city.
Still determined to retain their prize, the champions started on the front foot against Leicester, only to fall victim to Jamie Vardy's blistering pace. But a player very familiar to the Foxes launched the home side's comeback.
Morris trying to liven things up here. Riyad Mahrez! Raheem Sterling. Sterling hits the deck. Penalty. Gundogan. Clinical. Manchester City have to be flawless now, and they now have the edge against Leicester. Kevin De Bruyne driving at Soyuncu and away from Soyuncu. De Bruyne, Jesus! While Liverpool's backs are turned, Manchester City cut the gap between themselves and top spot, and they give Leicester City a tap on the shoulder too.
Old friends turn foes at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Jose Mourinho's trophy-laden reigns together. Now the Portuguese had different allegiances in a bitter Spurs-Chelsea rivalry. But it was the less experienced boss who triumphed. Willian tucked away both goals in a 2-0 success to ensure it was Lampard who went home feeling special. Everton appointed former Premier League winner Carlo Ancelotti as their new manager. The Italian got off to a successful start when Dominic Calvert-Lewin scored the only goal against Burnley. It lifted Everton to 13th. After being crowned the best in the world by winning the FIFA Club World Cup in Doha, Liverpool were back in Premier League action away at second-place Leicester City. Victory would take Jurgen Klopp's side 13 points clear at the top of the table, with a game in hand.
Herrera's header away, the cue for Leicester to push out. They can't get too far out before he comes back in again. It's a brilliant header. Roberto Firmino claims the goal.
It stayed that way for the next 40 minutes either side of half-time, until Charles Soyuncu's handball changed the complexion of the closing stages. James Milner prized open the floodgates.
Never in doubt. Another huge goal for Liverpool. Alexander-Arnold flashes it in. 3-0. Alexander-Arnold brilliantly hit. Liverpool tearing Leicester apart. Champions of Europe, champions of the world, and now another big step towards being crowned champions of England.
Even so, a successful season for Leicester still appeared to be on the cards. They finished the year in second place with a 2-1 win at West Ham. A 9th defeat in 12 games for the Hammers prompted the dismissal of manager Manuel Pellegrini after 18 months in the chair. The following day, the London club announced David Moyes would take over for a second spell. Liverpool had a 13-point lead to carry into 2020, despite playing a game fewer than their would-be challengers. Leicester the closest of those, while Wolves and Sheffield United continued to win many plaudits. Norwich, Watford and Aston Villa made up the bottom three. Arsenal were far from happy to be in the bottom half, while West Ham were banking on Moyes to steer them to safety again.
Staying afloat was the aim at the London Stadium, and the Hammers certainly felt buoyant when David Moyes made a dream start to his second spell in charge. A 4-0 win lifted West Ham out of the relegation zone and meant an 8th defeat for Bournemouth in the space of 10 games. At the Emirates, Arsenal saw the new year off to a flyer as Mikel Arteta secured his first managerial victory. The Gunners beat Manchester United 2-0 with goals from Nicolas Pepe and Socrates. Liverpool weren't at their best at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, but they still won. Roberto Firmino ensured the Reds extended their unbeaten league run to 38 matches, the equivalent of an entire season. 17 points adrift, retaining the title now looked a forlorn hope for Manchester City, but they flexed their muscles against struggling Aston Villa on a special night for Sergio Aguero. In a 6-1 victory, he became the highest overseas goalscorer in Premier League history and surpassed Alan Shearer's record of 11 hat-tricks in the division. The bottom two met at Carrow Road, Teemu Pukki prompting the fist pump as Norwich rekindled their survival hopes by seeing off Bournemouth 1-0.
This season, only Manchester United have left so much as a scratch on Liverpool's glistening record. Alexander-Arnold, Van Dijk! Demanded that he should score for Liverpool, and they reach out for it once more. And Alisson saw Salah running from his own half, so onside here, Mo Salah. Salah to settle it in front of the Kop, and Jurgen's got 3 more points, and they sing, they dare to sing. You hear it, we're going to win the league.
More dismay for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in the midweek round that followed, as Manchester United slumped to another 2 defeat, this time against Burnley at Old Trafford. A historic victory for the Clarets that took them up to 13th. At Stamford Bridge, Chelsea and Arsenal played out a classic London derby. Former Blue David Luiz was shown red on his return, but the Gunners twice came from behind to draw 2-2. Liverpool maintained their 16-point lead at the top of the table with a 2-1 win at Wolves. Another decisive goal for Roberto Firmino as the records kept tumbling. The Reds had gained 5 more points after 23 matches than any other side in English top-flight history. They had a game in hand too, which they played 6 days later at West Ham. No prizes for guessing the outcome. Mohamed Salah's penalty put them on track for their 23rd win from the first 24 fixtures of the Premier League season. Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain confirming their superiority. The table looked astonishing. Liverpool had reached 70 points faster than any other English top-flight side before them, leaving Manchester City and Leicester vying for second a long way back. Chelsea were 6 points above Manchester United. The same gap at the bottom was far less welcome for Norwich. Above them, only goal difference separated Watford, Bournemouth and West Ham, with Aston Villa and Brighton feeling far from safe.
Spurs City, few rivalries, if any, have matched this one for its weight of goals, of fury, of heart-pounding drama. It is just another one of those delicious reunions. Lucas Moura. Bergwijn! Instant Tottenham star! He's one of them at once! And Ndombele. Son! 2! Spurs have snatched their moment. At the end of it all, Spurs have chewed up the champions.
More concerns for Manchester City. Ahead of the home match against West Ham, they were handed a 2-year ban from European competitions for allegedly breaching UEFA's financial fair play rules. City denied any wrongdoing, said they'd appeal, and kept their focus, beating the Hammers 2-0. Chelsea's grip on their top 4 spot continued to loosen as they lost by the same score to Manchester United at Stamford Bridge. Headers from Anthony Martial and Harry Maguire put Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's side just 3 points behind the Blues. Second met third at the King Power, where Sergio Aguero's penalty was saved by Kasper Schmeichel as chances went begging for both sides. Manchester City finally made a breakthrough in the 80th minute. Substitute Gabriel Jesus with the goal that carried them 7 points clear of Leicester. West Ham's endeavour had Liverpool sweating as the London club took a 2-1 lead at Anfield. Normality was restored late on though, and the Reds needed just 4 more wins to secure the title after Mo Salah and Sadio Mane earned the maximum points yet again. Still rock bottom of the Premier League, Norwich reminded everyone not to write them off too soon with a shock 1-0 win over Leicester. The fading Foxes' 6th defeat in their last 11 league games.
So it's Watford's turn. Everybody has to play Liverpool twice. They all get a go, and to this point, none have found the answer. Is there a way to stop them? Decore. Shaw! Hear that! champions are behind at Vicarage Road. Ismail Assar! Watford 2 to the good. Allison is committed. Sarr can't get a shot away. Oh my word, Bottini does! Watford aren't just beating the would-be champions, they are pulling away! Invincible no more. Liverpool lose. And that is your headline. The unbeaten run ends at 44, the winning run at 18.
Despite a result nobody saw coming, Liverpool's dominance was in no doubt. 22 points ahead of the rest. Chelsea still had control of the race for fourth, and there were just 4 points separating the other top half clubs. Norwich remained at the foot of the table, 6 points from safety with 10 games to save themselves. Watford's incredible win took them out of the relegation zone on goal difference in the thick of a very tight tussle.
March brought increasing concerns that the spread of coronavirus around the world could soon have a serious impact in England. Initially, the Premier League continued as normal. At Goodison Park, Dominic Calvert-Lewin caught out David De Gea, but Manchester United recovered to earn themselves a 1-1 draw thanks to January signing Bruno Fernandes. Tottenham twice went ahead at home to Wolves, but Nuno Espirito Santo's side refused to surrender, and Raul Jimenez eventually clinched a 3-2 victory. The Midlands club moved up to 6th, only 3 points behind 4th place Chelsea. With every passing day, more was being learned about the highly contagious illness known as Covid-19. On match week 29, the Premier League dispensed with the fair play handshakes between players and officials that were such a familiar part of the pre-match routine. For now, once the first whistle blew, it was still business as usual, even if Bournemouth taking the lead against Liverpool suggested otherwise. The leaders responded to land their 22nd consecutive home league victory. Carlo Ancelotti's return to Stamford Bridge did not go to plan. Everton were trounced 4-0 in Chelsea's biggest league win of the season. And it was the same scoreline at Leicester, where the Foxes shrugged off the poor form that had seen them take just 2 points from the previous 12 available, overpowering Aston Villa.
City within weeks now surely of surrendering their crown, but still for now, of course, the proud champions. Fernandes, who orchestrates another set piece and flicks it from Martial! Squeezed it through Ederson and established a United lead on Derby Day. James can chase, Ederson's there. But his clearance is hurried, back by McTominay! Red letter day, Scott McTominay!
3 days later, City's fixture with Arsenal was postponed, following news that the owner of Greek club Olympiakos had contracted Covid-19. He'd met several members of the Arsenal squad and coaching staff when the clubs played a Europa League tie 13 days earlier. Grounds across the country were about to fall silent. 24 hours on, the Gunners' boss, Mikel Arteta, tested positive for the virus. And before long, players from several other clubs had to self-isolate when they, too, displayed symptoms. With the crisis escalating rapidly in the UK, the Premier League decided to suspend all fixtures until it was deemed safe to play again. The health of fans, players, and everyone involved a clear priority in unprecedented circumstances. The
The world was forced to adapt to a new way of life. Streets deserted, hospitals crowded, as people isolated in their homes to avoid catching Covid-19. The acclaim no longer for those with a ball at their feet, but for the heroes in surgical masks, working tirelessly day and night. Around the world, the virus was claiming hundreds of thousands of lives. The months passed with Premier League players in isolation too, following fitness regimes at home. When the number of fatalities in the UK began to fall, mass testing was introduced for players and staff, and they gradually returned to the training grounds. Everyone was working to make what was known as Project Restart a reality. June the 17th, the date set for the return of a Premier League that would look very different. Games would need to be played behind closed doors for the remainder of the season. When the campaign resumed, Liverpool had a 25-point lead at the top of the table. Manchester City, Leicester and Chelsea made up the top four, as just 6 points separated the teams from 5th to 10th. Norwich was 6 points adrift of safety at the bottom. 4 points separated the 5 teams above them, who all remained in fear of relegation. One of those clubs was Aston Villa, and they hosted Sheffield United in the first game back, exactly 100 days on from the last Premier League fixture. With top-flight football's return came controversy. When Sheffield United seemed to have the ball in the net, the goal line technology didn't respond. Operators Hawkeye explained later the view of... The next stop was the Etihad, where Manchester City and Arsenal finally played the first fixture postponed due to Covid-19, pitting Pep Guardiola against his former assistant Mikel. Back to the drawing board for Liverpool. 107 excruciating days after they last kicked a Premier League ball, the league leaders returned to action with a goalless Merseyside derby against Everton. The Reds dropped points for just the third time all season, but Jurgen Klopp's side were now within just 5 points of securing the Premier League title. In the midweek round, Anthony Martial netted a hat-trick for Manchester United. A 3-0 defeat for Sheffield United meant their European dream was dissolving. Back at Anfield, Liverpool showed why they were on the brink of that first league title in 30 years, with 4 brilliant goals against Crystal Palace. The victory for Jurgen Klopp's side meant that if Manchester City dropped points at Chelsea the following day, the Reds would be crowned Premier League champions for the very first time.
Manchester City have to win to even keep some kind of mathematical chance. Liverpool are waiting for their coronation some 200 miles north of here. Mistake there with Mendy. Pulisic, he's through here. Can he finish this? Christian Pulisic, you bet he can. And is that a moment which pushes Liverpool ever closer to confirming the title this evening? Now it's De Bruyne. It's a good one and it's in. Brilliant free kick. Manchester City are level. Willian against Ederson. 2-1 to Chelsea. And Liverpool within touching distance of the title with that goal. And that final whistle will sound like a concerto to Liverpool supporters, because they are the champions, richly deserved by Jurgen Klopp's men. Congratulations to them.
So Liverpool finally claimed the crown with 7 games to spare, the earliest title win in top-flight history. Manchester United and Wolves sat just 2 points behind 4th place Chelsea in the intense fight for European football. None of the bottom 5 have managed to win since the restart. Norwich remains 6 points adrift, but Aston Villa, Bournemouth, West Ham and Watford were separated by a single point.
At the Etihad, the deposed champions welcomed their successors as Manchester City formed a guard of honour for Liverpool. The Reds may have ruled supreme, but it was a different story here. Raheem Sterling got the better of Joe Gomez in the penalty area, allowing Kevin De Bruyne the chance to open the scoring from the spot.
De Bruyne scores City will not yield their title with a whimper. Phil Foden, Raheem Sterling, 2-0 City. Here's Foden, he scores sumptuously. Raheem Sterling, who walks it in via Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, and Manchester City are ripping up their successors.
Liverpool's first game as champions was one to forget for them. But it was now unrealistic to talk about avoiding relegation. Kick, one more defeat for the Canaries, and they would be relegated. A 3-0 victory for Manchester United moved them to within a point of fourth place Leicester. Aston Villa were 19th and in serious trouble. Game week 35 began with what threatened to be the end for Norwich. Lose to West Ham and they'd go back down to the Championship. The Canaries duly slumped to a 4-0 defeat, with Mikel Antonio scoring all four for the Hammers. Dean Smith's side responded with a 2-0 victory to leave them 4 points from safety with 3 games to go. A similar story for Bournemouth, and the Cherries came from behind to win 4-1 as Leicester missed an opportunity to cement their Champions League place. 2 days after their European ban had been overturned, Cherries now 3 points from safety. The two teams just above the relegation zone met as West Ham beat Watford 3-1 to all but guarantee their safety. The Hornets' fate was still in their own hands, but 2 days later they made the shock decision to sack Nigel Pearson. Under-23 coach Hayden Mullins was placed in charge for the remaining 2 games. Watford's first outing following Pearson's departure ended in a 4-0 drubbing to Manchester City. Intriguingly, it meant they now had the same goal difference as both Bournemouth and Aston Villa below them. That was until Villa pulled off a shock win over Arsenal. Trezeguet's goal took them out of the drop zone, and it meant the last 2 relegation places will be decided on the final day. Liverpool's final game of the season at Anfield saw Chelsea provide the opposition, and with the help of his teammates, skipper Jordan Henderson was able to lay his hands on the trophy after another red-hot night on Merseyside.
Naby Keita's hit an absolute peach. Alexander-Arnold has come up with an absolute perler. And Liverpool are 3-0 up.
Olivier Giroud snatched one back for Chelsea before Roberto Firmino scored his first home league goal of the season to make it 4-1. The Blues kept going with strikes from Abraham and Pulisic to bring the score back to 4-3, but it was always going to be Liverpool's night.
It came to Oxlade-Chamberlain, who rocketed in a 5th for the champions. What a treat, what a treat. And for Liverpool, the best bit is still to come.
With their name engraved and the red ribbons on the Premier League trophy, Liverpool could finally celebrate.
At the end of the season they feared may never end. The longest wait, a generation on and more, for the 19th time in their history, for the first time in the Premier League, in the never-to-be-forgotten year of 2020, the champions of England, again at last, are Liverpool.
Come the final Sunday, attention turned to the race for the top 4. 2 goals in 3 minutes secured one of those spots for Chelsea at the end of an impressive first season in charge for Frank Lampard. At the King Power, a showdown for the other 2 clubs in contention, Leicester and Manchester United, who recorded a 2-0 victory to guarantee Champions League football at the expense of the Foxes. They had to make do with 5th place and a Europa League berth. At the bottom of the table, it remained 2 from 3 to go down, with Watford, Aston Villa and Bournemouth all battling for survival. Eddie Howe's side won 3-1 at Everton, but that in itself wasn't enough. They also needed Villa and Watford to lose. The Hornets were beaten at Arsenal after conceding 3 first-half goals. The gamble to replace Pearson hadn't paid off. Those results meant Aston Villa just had to avoid defeat at West Ham to stay up. Jack Grealish put them ahead, only for Dean Smith's side to concede moments later via a deflection off Grealish. But a draw was enough to ensure survival by a point and condemn Bournemouth and Watford to the drop after 5 years in the top flight. So at the end of the longest ever Premier League season, Norwich, Watford and Bournemouth went down. Eddie Howe left the South Coast club days later after 8 years in charge. Manchester City, Manchester United and Chelsea made up the top 4, along with the champions Liverpool, who ended a 30-year wait for a league title with the second highest points tally in Premier League history.
The lofty Liverbirds, the champions of Europe.
Box office appointment to view football.
Those who would be kings. So settle in, let the house lights fade, the floodlights beam, the curtain rise, and let the show commence. Liverpool are promptly launched at the start of another season. Salah for Alexander-Arnold, oh brilliant! It's Sadio Mane! It came to Henderson! Liverpool have snatched the lot again. Oh, what a hit! This may be an irreversible lead on the day and through the campaign. And the Reds have ripped up Derby Day.
Liverpool tearing Leicester apart. How do you stop them?
Van Dijk demanded that he should score for Liverpool. In front of the Kop, he wins it for Liverpool.
14 wins in a row.
And right now, they are the champions of the world, they are the champions of Europe, and they are the champions of their own land. No club anywhere carries the kudos of Liverpool Football Club.